How's it going, everyone? We have another guest with us today. Our guest is Steve. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good, brother. Yourself?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. So, how
Cool.
long have you been practicing for?
Okay. I'm gonna be honest, man. Your questions seem to be very straightforward
Mhm.
and they're honest, and you want to get the information out there. But I feel you are extremely intelligent, occultist, but sneaky because the
Okay.
questions are actually so much bigger than your questions. Okay. Can I give the longer version of an answer?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So professionally, like we've got to be real.
Mhm.
What we do, I personally love it, and I'm trying to get as many people into this knowledge as possible. But to do it successfully and realistically, especially at our age, because we look similar age, you have to make enough money off of it. Because at the end of the day, you need a home, you need a car, food, etc. Right? So professionally, in other words, I don't do any other work now besides this. This is my
Mhm.
sole income. Professionally, for about 5 years. Practicing wise, about 8. But I'd say that scratch, that itch, that sense of limitation, like something's not right. We're entitled to more. We need to know more. We have
Mhm.
access to more. What the fuck is it? Um, that started about 12 years old when I started questioning because I was brought up in a very religious home and family. And when answers couldn't be given to me that I could just instant, like, when your higher self, your spirit tells you, like, that is just bullshit. That is when I started delving into, okay, what else is there? What is this itch, this thing burdening my mind to scream? This is just not enough.
Right.
So yeah,
I've that definitely resonates with me around 12 or 13 as well. I was being told things that just didn't resonate with me, and something deep down inside of me was just like, no, no, that's not the case.
yeah,
Or, there's got to be more than that.
yeah. But cool, but I've come to learn, it's actually yourself that starts to come aware.
Hmm.
And once she becomes aware, that's when shit starts to get real.
Yeah,
And I
that's when the
encourage
inner
my clients to
initiation
follow
begins.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. So you mentioned to me that the area that you live in is somewhat religious, and so there's not a lot of people that do what you do, certainly at a professional level. So what's that like being in an area where
Yeah.
it's not very common?
Um, Yeah, yeah, in South Africa it is super religious, many different denominations, but still religious nonetheless. It is frowned upon here.
Hmm.
Um, Fortunately and not fortunately, I don't really care anymore, but fortunately, most of my clients are international, actually from the States.
Hmm.
But when my local do find me, they love it, they appreciate it because it's slowly starting to grow their awareness. And
Hmm.
I teach it a lot in my channels, on my channel, sorry, that I'm into truth and the power that you possess that you merely need to step into and be aware of. So I don't care anymore if they back to me and say, oh, you this and this. You know the words they use on us when they're ignorant. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you have a YouTube channel. Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So he's growing slowly. But again, I think people are sometimes too scared to search out higher truth
Hmm.
out of the conventional, which is what I try and speak about in my channel as well. I try to encourage people you don't necessarily have to turn to magic or the occult knowledge for everything, but it's available beyond your conventional. Oh, you need a tablet. Oh, you need a doctor for this. Oh, you naughty. So I teach demonology.
Okay.
I speak about demonology, but only based on my experience. So I don't make shit up. It's my experience, my truth. I speak a lot on spiritual lessons, meditation, higher self, and a lot of other entities as well, not just the demons. From the Orisha to the angels, I encourage people to learn more, to experiment in a safe way, or contact me if they choose to. Uh, as obviously, sometimes I'll mention my service that I offer, and I'm very big on the teaching aspect of it. And I try to get as much variety in my content as possible. It covers basically spirituality, the occult, magic, of course. I
Hmm.
share quite a lot of vids on magic. Um, but I do encourage the guys, especially the beginners, like practice it. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. But if you're not sure, rather and not for sales purposes, bro. I mean, I think you've experienced it in the beginning. Mistakes can happen. So even if you don't want to take a full-on spell from a practitioner, at least if you're truly interested, have a consultation. You know, just get that guidelines on, yes, I'm sharing the spells with you. But if you're not 100% sure, contact one of us just to guide you through the safest way to obtain your goal, you know?
Yeah, and you've mentioned being safe more than once. What are some ways that the beginning practitioners out there can practice safety in their spirituality?
There's a few ways to look at that. Okay, so I like to use a lot of times the gym as my metaphor, my analogy in the sense. The stronger you get physically, right, and it comes to consistency of going to gym, you're going to be able to handle your physical tasks so much better because you're now physically stronger. So if you're mentally and spiritually stronger, you are going to be more successful at lifting your spiritual weight. The guys have to remember, and some practitioners might disagree with me, and that's totally cool. I'm open to open conversations. To me, every single spell we cast, right? Whether it's chaos magic, your own energy, black magic, magic with entity, it starts from the mind. You create and you manifest from the mind. And I teach that we, besides entity, the assistance, we create on the vibration of three forms, which is written, spoken, and seen. So if you practice the spoken word and understand what the spoken word is, and you strengthen the mind, which not only but predominantly comes through meditation, you are going to be more equipped to handle your spiritual um, goals, your spiritual activities then. And when I say spiritual, I include magic in that as well, because it's energy.
That's actually what I was going to bring up. Was you mentioned the written, the spoken, and the seen, but there also seems to be that felt aspect, the sensational
Yes.
aspect of magic as well, sort of energy work and things like
Yeah.
that.
Over 100%, bro. You're actually getting me excited. I'm just speaking my language and I enjoy it. And no offense to my clients, I love them, but they're obviously there to learn. But when I speak to a fellow practitioner that I can hear, dude, actually we're on the same page. You know, you start to get a bit of a buzz. You start to smile for shit. Um, yeah, the way I teach that aspect of it, and you're quite correct, the emotion, and because I'm very into teaching, I describe to them that the vibrational communication for your message, right, is written, spoken, and seen. And the stronger your mind and spirituality, the better that's going to be. But what I explain to them is that's your vehicle you're designing as such to deliver your spark, your creation. But the fuel you put in your car is what you just mentioned, the emotion in the spark, the emotion behind the spark. So if you put in the correct emotion at the correct frequency, that car is going to do what it's designed to do of 120 miles an hour. But if you're going to put the incorrect emotion, it's probably going to lag at like 20 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So
Or
the
go
emotion
worse.
is important. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, what interested you in the first place? I know you said that you sort of felt like things were off from what you were being taught. Was there any sort of cultural, like movies or books or music that sort of led you into this as well?
Nothing quite so fairy tale or Hollywood. To be honest, and I think when a lot of practitioners are like super honest,
Hmm.
their answer will probably be very similar to mine.
Hmm.
I've always been aware, like I said, in questioning since 12, delving and experimenting. And when I started to learn at 18, my mind started growing, my downloads started getting faster and faster and stuff. When I say downloads, I'm talking about information, universal information.
Sure.
Um, sorry, bro, my mind tends to drift in a million places at once. Sorry, what is the question?
What sort of influences that you had that?
Oh, okay. So I've always had a love for energy, the creation, what we truly are, and I can go very deep on that.
Mhm.
But what drove me to go professionally was twofold. I was looking to make more money to live a more comfortable lifestyle. So I decided that that is my desire. I want to do this, but doing what I truly enjoy, which is teaching truth and knowledge. And actually, because you're entitled to it. I don't know if many people know it. You're entitled to this knowledge and these skills. Okay.
Mhm. Right.
And then my personal health. Like about 10 years ago, I went through personal health. I've experienced it on the physical realm. And when I say hell, I'm not speaking in the religious sense. That's just the term we use for pain and suffering, you know.
Hmm.
I experienced on the physical realm, but when I started experiencing it mentally and spiritually, I'm like, okay, dude, you got to either take this energy now, harness it for your good, and teach, like really go full swing, or you're not going to get up. And that's what drove me. And I just started the YouTube channel, started teaching, started practicing deeper and deeper. And that's when I reached the point where I could say, okay, I can quit my day job. I did exactly that, and I haven't looked back.
Hmm. That's another thing that you mentioned is sort of the trauma that we go through. I often feel like perhaps one of the reasons that bad things happen to good people is because those people will learn from those lessons and then be able to help an almost infinite amount of other people through that same suffering.
100%, bro. It's like some of my personal friends or family members, for example, um, I'll mention to them if I feel they need a psychologist, right? I have nothing against psychology and psychiatry. Look, I do spiritual counseling as well, which is similar to what they do, but more on
Mhm.
the occult, spiritual side of things. I will tell them if they like my age, which I'll say is 43, they often go to anyone, right? Like someone who's maybe just qualified in their 20s or 30s, and no offense to them, but I'd say go for someone way older.
Mhm.
That shows their experience. So we have to go through that. Like for me, look, I've covered a broad range of spells, and like in consultation, I've discussed so many hectic, deep, heart sore issues at times. But I'd say the dude, probably like 60-70% of it is love related and pain and
Mhm.
trauma. So if I didn't know what pain and trauma is, I wouldn't be able to guide them effectively. So I'm grateful for my help. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel very thankful to be doing what I'm doing as well. I teach part-time and I counsel part-time. And
Yeah.
it feels like such a gift to be able to use the things that I've learned to help people through those struggles. So
Yeah, it is. It
go
is.
ahead.
No, no, I'm just agreeing with you 100%. To
Hmm.
give back, there's no greater gift for me than giving back
Yeah,
and teaching.
I agree. At the end of the day, it's just so rewarding. So what do you find is the thing that you teach the most? What do people come to you to want to learn most often?
Um, that's interesting. Like a big part of the time they come to tell me that the situation they find themselves in. What's the best way to approach it with a spell? And a lot of times it will lead to a spell when necessary. I mean, I've covered from breakup spells, return love spells, to banishings, like really, really serious things, banishings of unwanted entities, unwanted parasites, cleansing, or protection when necessary. And so those spells are done. But a lot of times the actual consultation leads to lessons with me, where I
Hmm.
teach them what I believe to be the fundamentals of your creator self,
Hmm.
which is meditation, accessing your higher self, accessing the Christ in you. And if I may, sorry, when I say Christ, I'm not just referring to the religious sense. I'm
Hmm.
referring to the true sense, the Christ particle within you. And
Hmm.
once you
Yeah.
can align that, your chakras, your higher self, like constantly walk, think, talk, and act in that manner. I mean, imagine if you walk and think and talk and create in the manner that I am creation, and you fully know this. You're on a whole other level.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's when I encourage them.
it's like you're operating with a completely different circuit in your brain when you
Yeah,
begin to operate in that manner.
yeah. And I don't mean to sound arrogant. If I come kind of across arrogant sometimes, that's not a South African thing. That's not a Steve Dark thing. I apologize for it. It's like it happened a couple of minutes ago where I'm speaking to you and my mind literally went into a million different areas.
Uh-huh.
So it does that often. And it looks like I'm not paying attention. I'm actually not. It's just, it drifts to, okay, blah, 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 blah. A million things, it's going on.
Well, and the nature of a lot of these topics are so interrelated with other things that it's hard sometimes not to go off on a tangent or to lose track of where you are because yeah, like I said, the nature is just so interrelated with so many other things.
It's fantastic. I think it's awesome. It's I mean, it's massive.
Hmm.
If I never had time constraint, this specific topic, the occult, spirituality in the truest of sense, I could probably speak on for hours. I
Yes,
plan to at some point, just
it,
not today.
yeah, and I have in many of the episodes of this series spoken for hours about this stuff, and then I get off of the video with the person, and then we're talking, on email or text or something, and we just keep going. A lot of people that I've spoken to in these interviews, I maintain a weekly discourse with, just about what's going on in their life, how they do certain things, or how I do certain things. It's such a privilege, as I mentioned, to be able to meet people from all around the world who are interested in these things.
Yeah. But like what you said, then I actually touched on something that's very dear to me, and that is sharing.
Hmm.
Sharing the knowledge. I've come across a few practitioners that, and it's their choice, who actually hold back on their teaching and their experiences.
Hmm.
Me, if I've experienced something positive as a positive result, I'll teach and I'll share. I don't have that fear of, oh, I will lose clients now because they can do it. Like, you shouldn't think like that.
No, no. And a lot of times, if your clients are astute enough, they can tell that that's what you're doing. They can tell they're being manipulated. And my experience, the clients that I have, the more I share with them, the more they want to learn, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, for sure.
And what systems do you, I say systems, but what traditions or currents or systems do you currently draw the most from these days?
Um, sorry, can you just maybe rephrase that, or are you speaking
Yeah, sure. So
proverb or something?
like myself, I draw very much from, I would say, like folk and ceremonial traditions and shamanic traditions. So do you draw from like your influence from like Buddhism or like Hinduism or like Wicca? Like,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, I fully understand. Well, I actually work with a broad range of entity, like I say, from the so-called demons, the angelic realm, the Orisha. But you must remember, I've been doing it for quite a few years now, and I do it literally day and night, 7 days a week.
same.
So entity's presence is there, entity's presence is always welcome, and I do a lot of my personal rituals besides client rituals. I've come to, over the last couple of years, draw more onto my higher self. Once my knowledge of spell materials grew, relationship with entity, which is actually super important. Not 100% necessary. There is magic you can do without entity for sure. But
Mhm.
I try to incorporate a lot of chaos magic because there's signatures behind those sigils, which is very powerful because it's another form of written word, which
Mhm.
is creating. And this is why I again encourage, yes, learn all of this. Learn how to have a relationship. Learn actually what magic actually is. And put aside the Hollywood bullshit terms of um, the demons that you think of. And I can say a few words, but I'm going to get flack for it because I know a lot of guys follow those wording. It just in my experience that it's actually incorrect.
Mhm.
Do you mind if I say an example?
No, go ahead.
And if you disagree, please just tell me because I believe in open conversations.
Sure.
The idea of summoning a demon, commanding a demon, is actually false. You request their presence and you thank them for their presence and you form a bond and work together. Why would someone with way more power and sight than you listen to you summoning them? That is made up bullshit. It doesn't work that way. And when they hit those paths, that blockages, that's why a lot of times it's just disrespect, incorrect working process. So I firstly yes build a relationship with entity and understanding, and sometimes they're unsuccessful and I move on. But I rely these days more on yes my accumulated knowledge thus far, but my higher self,
Mhm.
which is more spiritually based. So I'll tap into my higher self before each spell. Then I'll call on entity who I'm working with and we'll work that spell together. I
Mhm.
do it with my readings. I tap into my higher self first, call on a certain entity to do divination with. I do my reading with entity. Even before a consultation, I'll do a quick meditation
Mhm.
and tap into higher self so that I can truly be there for client. So I suppose in a shortened answer is higher self, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and you have a very you have a very eclectic approach, which is very similar to myself. And I think that that just happens naturally over time as you begin to study and practice this stuff, you start to recognize it in other systems and other traditions, and you can sort of pick and choose what works for you and what doesn't from individual
Yeah.
systems.
But and that's true. So some things that don't work for me doesn't mean it's not going to work for you,
Right.
you know, and vice versa. It's like that's where the experimenting comes in. But I do encourage experiment in a safe way, in a knowledgeable way, you know. Like I said, I have a lot of clients that experience some form of entity possession, whether it's just on an astral level or full blown. And that's from unsafe practices a lot of time. They
Yeah.
actually unintentionally attract something else in. So safety is important, and the knowledge behind what you're doing is important.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's pretty common thing is like entity attachments and possessions and things like that. And that's why one of the first things that I try to teach people is to get in touch with your own energy so that you can recognize when something else is interacting with you.
Yeah,
Because that's a big one.
for sure. Yeah, I teach that as well
Mm.
because it can you can actually create your own immense protection just by being aware of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned using entities for divination. I've got a two-part question here. The first one is, what types of divination do you like to do? Like,
Um, I'll be honest. I think there's a few different variations in divination.
mhm,
So what my answer might not satisfy people, but I think you interviewed me for my view of things, my
yes,
experiences. I'm assuming. So when I do divination, I basically present myself to entity and experience entity's presence and favor with me. Like with King Bilal, for example, who I do most of my readings with.
okay,
My specific goal in that divination is for his presence, but his supreme sight. So I will, besides calling on his presence and chanting his in and welcoming him in, I have to do a pretty big setup for a reading. People don't know that. I will thank him and I'll do certain rituals also where I end off by opening my sight with his sight and aligning it, which allows me like clarity in my readings with, well, I must, in my opinion, exceptional guidance where needed. And so I mostly achieve my goal in that
mm,
divination because that was my purpose there.
mhm. And do you have any experience with like the Tree of Life and the Clipoth at all?
Not really. I have a few questions. Clients has brought it up, and I'm looking into it a bit myself, but I don't like to. I'll be honest, and again, it can sound arrogant. I don't like to read into things too much, literally. I
Hmm.
like to maybe hear about something and experience it myself through meditation, through divination, through downloads,
Hmm.
and speak my own truth. I don't like to necessarily go verbatim to what a certain book says or a certain text says, because then you're going to actually, people don't realize, but they set themselves up for danger in the sense of you are now limiting yourself.
Hmm.
So I like to be introduced to something new. I'll have a look at it here and there, take a little bit, and then I'll do my own divination into it and understanding and see what I feel and experience.
Hmm.
So again, on my channel, I only speak of things I've experienced and got successful with.
I respect that. Yeah, the only reason I ask is because in some traditions, Belial or Belial, as some people say, um, I shouldn't say belongs, but corresponds to a certain part on the tree. So I was just going to ask what your experience was with where he was placed on the tree, so to speak. But um,
Oh,
that's
okay. Well,
so
I'll actually look into that. I don't know the answer, but I'll actually look into that.
mm,
The reason why I call on him for that specifically is he's actually my first patron, so he's super dear to me, and
okay.
he's given me a lot of his time and energy and favor. I mean, among others, but yeah.
Okay. And so part two of that question is, what types of divination do you do? Do you like to do tarot? Do you cast runes? Or do you just sort of tap into that Belial consciousness and he just sort of inundates you with the knowledge?
Well, I kind of do it both in
Okay.
my readings because I do quite a lot of readings. So I will still have the cards where necessary, but I do it. I do actually. It's like I'm tapped into his sight. I've firstly tapped into my higher self. I've tapped into his sight and presence, and I go forth into the reading in a very deep manner. And oftentimes a card will fall or a card will pull, but as it's been presented, the
Hmm.
knowledge has actually just been downloaded to me. And I start texting it because I email my emails back.
Hmm.
Because obviously it's a very private, very big setup to do. And then
Right.
the client still gets information, but I let it flow to me naturally. So yeah, does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. And I think most of the people who are watching this by now will have an idea of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, are there any other entities that you feel have helped propel you along the way in your magical practice thus far?
Yeah, for sure. In my personal life and my practicing.
Hmm.
Um, like who I often work with personally and not just for clients. Like on a personal level, um, there's Salos,
Okay.
King Paimon,
Oh yeah.
Beelzebub, Lord Lucifer, um, clone it to a degree, but more Lucifer's Robocal. I actually have three permanent setups in my home. It's one to King Balal, one to Lord Lucifer, and one to Lucifer Robocal. So it's a small setup. It's not a spell, but that's a permanent sigil that's set up there, an ongoing candle where when I can, which is most of the time, I'll just greet them. And you can get that level where you don't have to go full on spell, full on invocation. I just merely greet them and thank them for presence and favor. Lilith and Astaroth as well
Okay.
are
Yeah,
very dear to me.
I've worked with every one of those entities except for Clawneck. I know most people use Clawneck for like wealth and fortune and prosperity. Is that been your experience?
Yes, 100%. I've
Mm-hmm.
had successful personal spouses with them as well. I've had successful spouses with my clients with info prosperity work, money work. But that alone can be a whole other podcast on its own. On the clients manifesting their results, because I'm
Hmm.
sure you can get flack from them sometimes, but that's their lack of understanding.
Hmm.
But Lucifer's Robocal, and for myself also, I've experienced a lot of financial favor and breakthroughs with Lord Lucifer actually.
That's yeah. I like I said, I'm familiar with all of those. I've worked with all of them, and I've had very positive experiences with all of them. As long as I go into it, this is a callback to what you were saying earlier. I go into it with respect. I treat them as cohorts and as mentors, as opposed to subjugating them and trying to,
Yeah,
you know, like whip and chain them or
yeah,
whatever.
no, for sure.
I
And that's the
tried that
thing.
approach. I tried that approach when I first started because that's what I was told to do, and had
Yeah,
two very rough experiences. And then I'm like, okay,
yeah,
well from now on I'm gonna treat them like a wise elder or like a family member even.
yeah. And they actually appreciate it. Besides resonating with you and choosing to work. And this is where a lot of the guys, they actually don't get it. I learned it the hard way years ago. Form that relationship.
Hmm.
Don't be condescending to someone of that supremacy, Build that bond and you're gonna favor from it. You're gonna reap the rewards. So they need to understand, and I teach that a lot in the lessons one on one. It's building that relationship with entity. Like magic is, it's a huge umbrella, huge.
Hmm.
Relationship with entity is one of it. Build that relationship.
That's a really good point. And you also mentioned how the client's mindset has a lot to do with the results. And that's one reason why the very first consultation with the client, I don't even charge them for it. I just spend 10 or 15 minutes trying to figure out where their head is. Because if they're against angels because they've had some like weird thing that happened and or some trauma, like I'm not going to try to use spirits from the Shimham Farash. Or if they're completely against demons or demonic spirits, then I'm not going to use an infernal current to try to help the client. So it's interesting how much the client actually has, and a lot of them don't know that. They think that we're just some like
No,
omnipotent thing who waves a wand and makes it happen. But you know, like I can't get you money if you're just sitting around in your boxers playing Xbox all day and you won't even go outside to look for a job or look for any opportunity for that money to manifest. Like,
100%
sure,
brother.
yeah, sure, a tree branch might fall on your house and you might get an insurance claim, but is that really how you want to get paid at the end of the day?
Yeah. They play a massive part. I think I made a bit in it. If I haven't, I'm actually gonna do it again. Miracles versus spells, miracles and spells, the differences. There's a huge difference. The
Hmm.
client actually has a part to play. And I've come across some practitioners that will, and I'm not mentioning any names, will do the spell and not tell client about their part to play.
Hmm.
And I feel horrible when I hear stuff like that because the client is entitled to know they have a part to play to receive the spell. And I also give that lesson to my clients and teach them how to receive the spell, why they should do it. If you don't want to find, but I'm telling you, you're going to get faster results that way. And I'll teach you actually fully how to do it to receive the spell. And look, we've all got slight difference of terminology, you know. I refer to it as the thank you invocation. And again, um, putting the emotions into it, charging it.
Hmm.
Like, and I've had it so many times where they can't, they're not successful with a love spell, with a spirit spell, with curse. And I've had actually clients for that literally tell me they love just chilling at home playing games all day, but they want money flowing. And I'm like, I can do a prosperity spell for you, but I need something to attach it to. You have to do your part. Besides thanking entity now and receiving the spell, you got to actually walk within that energy.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's interesting though, because then actually they walk away with knowledge us afterwards.
Hmm. It's funny too because a lot of the times, if the people would just do the basic work, like I teach my clients meditation and mindset and like neuro linguistic programming. And a lot of times, if they would just do these things, they wouldn't need to cast the spells or to have me cast the spells that I do. If they would just get their chakras, so to speak, you know, balanced and they would
Yeah,
get their head in the right place, they wouldn't be worried about this or that.
yeah, that's all interlinked, bro. Like for me, when
Hmm.
I speak about the occult, to me it covers spiritual knowledge, higher self-awareness, magic practices, materials, the works. It's all one, you know. And when I teach my clients, I actually give them a lot in an hour, and most times I go over the hour just so that I can really teach them.
Right.
And look, even once they get to that level of controlling their emotions, controlling their mind, that which I call the spiritual gym, you know, really go to spiritual gym every day.
Hmm.
And it's again, it's not a sales pitch, and they don't have to. But having someone that is honest and putting their energy, which is super important, their energy into the spell and casting it with entity, or just by them their own energy, that's going to enhance their spell in any case, because you're merely giving more and more energy. So the results will naturally be better and bigger and faster.
Absolutely. And you mentioned materials as a part of practice. How important are materials in your specific practice? How often do you find yourself reaching for a physical item?
Um, I'd say 99% of the times, eh? That's pretty important. If you know again what you're doing and why you're doing it. Like if you're gonna just throw some shit down there because it looks cool or it looks and that's what a lot of the guys do, it looks dark, it looks evil, it looks satanic. That's cool. But if you don't actually have the understanding behind why you're placing that there, what it represents, what it's attracting, it actually has no charge. But if you use your materials in the knowledgeable sense, and I compare it to a housewife, and I'm not trying to be misogynistic or anything, but a housewife and a chef, they're given the same ingredients to
Hmm.
cook the same meal. The chef's meal is only going to be better because he's doing it with the knowledge. So when I
Hmm.
put my materials together, I'm not just putting a candle there or a rotten piece of pork there for the fun of it. I'm doing it with intent. So every piece of material I put there has intent in it, it has knowledge in it. And
Hmm.
every single sigil you see on my spell work, I use a lot of sigils. There's stuff written behind it which client doesn't see. There's a lot of background work into it, you know. I write certain things on candles, certain affirmations and declarations behind sigils. So there's a lot of power in it.
Hmm.
Yeah, the materials do carry power.
And you mentioned materials. So other than like candles and incense, what other sorts of materials do you use in your practice?
Well, I'll start with entity. Most of my spells are done with entity, whether it's an archangel, a demon, or the Orisha. I'll obviously give them their share of the offerings, which I think is super important.
Okay.
It gives the signature of respect. And then the spells, the materials to me, and this is my practice and teaching, should represent the spell.
Hmm.
So if it's if it's a return to sender spell, for example, someone's under attack and they know who's attacking them. But if we're not sure, our person do a divination on it just to double check that it's justified.
Right.
Because the laws of karma, laws of time, which I think we have control over, we don't really, to a degree, but not really. So I'll check that out first, make sure it's justified. Then I will use sometimes up to 2 small mirrors, for example, with a certain sigil written on it, the target's pick and name, and I'll reverse it with a certain color candle. I'll put another color candle for the client for protection, bound in most likely black bay leaves and coarse salt for his or her protection. And the intent is there, like the materials are actually conscious. They know what they're there for.
I love it.
My energy when I flow into the spell, when I create upon the spell, it's like making your pot of food. You've got your onions, your meat, your potatoes. Now you stir and put them together, you put them in the seasoning there. The end result is going to be, that's delicious.
Absolutely. It's a formula at the end of the day. And each formula, you don't just plug numbers into an equation when you're trying to figure something out. Each multiplication sign and each division sign is there for a specific reason to create a specific
Yeah.
outcome.
Yeah. And look, I teach it a lot. That's why a lot of the guys, like sometimes they want to listen. And I've given quite a few free lessons, but because I'm super busy, I can't all the time. So I obviously charge a certain amount, but I give them so much info in that time, like for example, like when I cast a love spell, or if anyone knows what they're doing, you are not, and I've seen it a few times, you are not going to put down dead or dried or withered rose petals, for example, or rotten meat, because that is death energy. So that'll be nowhere near your love spell. You know, you're going to
Hmm.
use fresh roses, fresh red or yellow roses that embodies the highest floral resonance.
Hmm.
And you do the reverse for a certain curse on a breakup spell, for example. You're going to use anything that has the energy of death attached to it. And I'm not talking about taking life.
Hmm.
That's a whole other topic, which I think I should steer away from. So I wouldn't want to encourage people to do things that's actually going to be super dangerous.
Right.
I'm knowledgeable of it, but it's super, super dangerous. Let me just say, I don't take life. I know how to do the practice, but I don't do it. You can use, like I say, meat that you've rotten over a long period of time, and a few other things, dead insects that's recently dead, flowers that you've deliberately withered, where the life's literally out, but you've done it for that purpose.
Mhm. Looks like we might have lost connection a little bit. Okay, we're back. So you were saying that it depends on the spell, essentially, the types of ingredients and the state that the components are in that you use them for. Live flowers versus dead flowers, for instance.
Yeah, look, that's very, very basic, but essentially, yeah, to sum it up, I feel that the materials are important. Yeah.
Okay. And I do as well. And as you mentioned is a very good point that the state of the component, the state of the material is very important. Obviously, obviously you work with what you have and you do what you can, but if you have the choice, obviously make sure that everything you're doing has the intention behind it.
Yeah, because even that has the energy signature. People need to
Mhm.
know that our
Yeah.
minds, we send out the will, the feel that we create with our hands, the materials, it all has energy. So
Mhm.
if you use it in the correct manner, your dish again is gonna come out beautifully.
Absolutely. You also mentioned using sigils a lot. I find myself using sigils in just about every working, whether it's for
Yeah.
myself, a client, for healing, for prosperity, for protection, whatever it is. I find sigils to be so useful. I was wondering what methods you use for creating sigils and if the method varies depending on the working.
Um, a lot of times I will use standard sigils that represent it. And if I'm not sure of its true meaning, again, I'll do divination on it.
Mhm.
Um, Even certain entities that are not necessarily mentioned in the bigger books, I'll do divination and like free flow, free writing of drawing of a sigil or and yes, any form of sigil. And then
Mhm.
I will in faith, like for better word, I'll in faith realize that is the sigil, that is the meaning, and it's done, you know.
Mhm. Okay,
So
so you
I don't
sort of
like to question information once you know you've received it. You should just accept it.
mhm.
Not blindly, but in faith, like I say.
Yeah, just sort of feel it out with your intuition as opposed to the intellect, it seems
Yeah.
like you're saying.
But there are some pretty standard sigils out there that are genuine.
Mhm.
And if you're
Okay.
sensitive enough, you will feel, okay, yeah, that feels good. That makes sense. That actually even looks like the intent you'd like to put out there.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. So, what are some of your favorite types of workings to do?
My favorite types of workings. Well, look, bro, you know, every working, regardless of what it is gonna take your energy.
Mhm.
And again, most clients don't know this. They think you're lighting a candle for them. If you're doing it correctly, you're pouring in literally your energy, which takes from you. Um, my favorite type of work is, well, look, the bulk of my work, from a money sense, is my spa work. But I'd say my favorite types of working isn't necessarily what the answer you're looking for, but that's actually my consultations where I do shadow work with clients
Yeah.
and healing and teach them how to properly heal, properly manifest their higher self, tap into all of us. I get extreme joy out of it actually, which is why I'll sometimes go over about 20, 30 minutes because I just want to give them and give them more. And when I see that penny drops, they're like, what? I'm what? And I'm like, yeah, you creation. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, you are creation. And so I get my biggest joy from my work there, I'd say.
Sounds like we have a lot in common. Yeah, it's so easy to get lost in teaching. Yeah, enough about me. So,
No, but I feel we should, dude. We really, really should. If you have something that I classify as truth, which is knowledge, which is where the word occult comes from, and I actually hate the fact that it's been demonized.
mhm,
You know what the occult means. It's hidden knowledge, secret knowledge, forbidden knowledge.
mhm,
If you have access to this, I think it's our responsibility to share.
mhm.
You know, not in a propaganda manner or a forceful manner, but just let them know, dude, sister, if you're interested, the knowledge is here. You have access to it. You have the right to it.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not using the knowledge and the wisdom of the occult, it's using you because other
Yeah.
people are using it against you, either intentionally or unintentionally.
And they'll get stagnant within you.
Mhm, mhm. And what what sort of things do you feel about magic has changed your life for the better?
Um, okay, I'm gonna be very open and honest, and I think a lot of people aren't, and you just should always be. So I've achieved my monetary goals of earning more money. I'm not rolling in the bucks, but I'm more comfortable. I can, and I'll be honest, and I don't use it painfully for myself, but I can access my desires a lot quicker.
Mhm.
That covers my life in general. And that's powerful because everyone has access to this. As long as you start learning the knowledge, going to spiritual gym, practice what needs to be practiced, and keep on learning and learning. So having quicker access to your heart's desires, let's say.
Excellent. That's a great answer. And what are some? You mentioned meditation and shadow work and balancing chakras. Are there any other recommended practices for beginner or intermediate level practitioners out there that you would suggest?
Um, for beginners, I would definitely say, and again, I think guys like us have to constantly say it, and I feel we shouldn't have to, but we have to. It's not a sales pitch, but definitely have a consultation with a practitioner that you can see has been open and completely honest. Okay,
Hmm.
start there because I will start to teach you proper meditation. Because I don't know if you're aware of this, brother, but most people, especially in the West, and this is no offense, this is just how things are. Most people think meditation is sitting there, closing your eyes and breathing. It's actually not. That's the physical aspect of it. But if you truly start to meditate, you are truly starting to learn to create with your mind. So that's the first thing. Yes, learning to align your chakras through certain breathing techniques and certain visualization techniques, and learning the power of your tongue, which is why I said in the beginning, written, spoken, and seen. Once you start to learn the power of your tongue, the vibration of it, and the words you use, and have certain I ams, certain techniques like that, you are going to start to access your higher self, your creator. And I teach them that you are not just creation, but by definition, when I go really deep with them, I let them end up by acknowledging that you are creator.
Hmm.
And once they have that fundamental down, we can go into, okay, cool, bro. What is magic? It's energy. Okay, what is energy? It's fucking everything. Who is entity? Boom, okay. This is entity. What does entity mean to you? How do you work with entity? And then we talk magic. Then we talk candles. We talk chaos magic. We talk curses, when not to do it, when to do it, and all those things, Because then you can really start spreading your wings into spiritual paths, prosperity spells, love work. Then you're ready. Your building blocks are there now. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you mentioned that meditation isn't just sitting idly by. I believe, I could be wrong about this, but I believe the word meditation comes from meditare in Latin, which means to plan. So meditation can certainly be a very active, conscious thing. And that's when you reach that stage, that's when some of the true magic really begins, because you start
It is.
building yourself astrally and
Yeah,
etherically.
yeah. 100%. Because when you plan, if you plan anything successfully, it's going to be written,
Mhm.
it's going to be seen. So if you are meditating, you are planning, you are seeing. And if you put the two together, if you're going to plan and you're going to see, it equals creation, which is a fundamental of magic, is
Mhm.
creation. So you need to tap into your creator ability, your mind, your spiritual gym. The meditate through meditation is super important.
Mhm.
And I know it's tiring at first. I could be lost for like 90 seconds and I'd be like, fuck, and I walk away. And I'm like, okay, cool. Give yourself a goal of 2 minutes next time, then 5 minutes.
Mhm.
You know, now I do it morning and night.
Mhm.
I don't let it go. I keep in a creative flow all the time.
That's
It's
great.
that
Yeah,
important.
it's a muscle at the end of the day. You
Yeah.
want to work it, otherwise it's going to atrophy.
100%.
Mhm.
100%.
So, what are or who are some of your biggest influences when it comes to the occult? Just off the top of your head.
Um, okay. I
I
know
know
the
you
answer,
earlier you mentioned that you don't really like to pull too much from one
but
source. So,
yeah, yeah, that's why I'm laughing because I'm gonna sound arrogant. I don't have anyone that actually I would consider an influencer.
mhm,
A lot of my, and again, I apologize if I sound arrogant, but I'm speaking truth. A lot of my knowledge and things that come to me and teachings has come through personal health, time in deep meditation, reflection, and time in entity. And then obviously, I would have a look at the Ask Awasha here and there. I even look at some scriptures in the Islam tradition, Christianity, and I'd seek out truth and I'd resonate to me with what is truth. And I basically, in short, I I latch onto truth. I seek truth out
mhm.
through meditation and divination and spending time with entity. And then if something works, I know that's truth. If it doesn't work, I let it go. And that is my influence, truth. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard not to sound arrogant or pretentious sometimes when we're talking about these things, but I think that true practitioners will know where you're coming from, because
Yeah.
a lot of this work is about individuation and finding your own unique
Yeah,
path. So when
yeah,
someone says, well, I learned a lot of this myself, or I'm an autodidact, or whatever. It's that's sort of how it should be for a lot of
exactly.
the
Yeah,
path.
yeah. Again, like the chef reference, they all train. They're all pretty good. But each chef, even though they still train the same, they still have a different touch.
Hmm.
And you should what works for you, which is why there's the best chef in the world and there's the worst, because you each got your own touch, and that's super important. I mean, I feel a lot when I work. I feel a lot, and I feel what is truth, what resonates with me the highest, what works, where I see the best results. Um, but even when I do personal meditations, where I see the greatest results, that is what I'll teach my clients. I actually won't waste their time with things that might work, but it'll take them 2 years, maybe. I give them the greatest result to teachings.
I'm sure they appreciate that.
I would like to think so, yeah.
And reflecting on your experience, reflecting on your journey is, I guess, what I'll say. What is the biggest mistake or mistakes that you've made as a practitioner?
In an actual practice of a spell, or
Sure. Yeah.
honestly, I haven't actually made any mistakes in a spell per se. I've made some mistakes in the business side of it, which I
Okay.
think you might resonate with certain clients who I will encourage after the time. Look, let's stop this spell work. Please consider consultation with me to access your higher self and healing. When I see the person actually needs genuine shadow work and genuine trauma healing, but they want to keep on with the spell, and I say, look, I'm picking up too much resistance in the specific spell because your emotions are frantic, your emotions are super, super low, and it's affecting the spell. And they get angry and they don't like it, and then they try and attack you.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I've learned that if I face a client that's resisting me or the work too much, I'll call it quits and I won't keep it going because they can really lash out.
Yeah, no
And
doubt.
yeah,
It's hard to call it. I'll speak for myself. It has been hard in the past to call it quits sometimes, because I don't want to feel like I'm giving up on the client, or I don't want to feel like, oh, I just can't handle the spell. But sometimes, like you said, there's resistance based on the perspective, or the mindset of the person, and sometimes, quite frankly, the client just wants you to do everything. And
they want a miracle.
yeah,
And I feel a
exactly.
lot of times, I mean, I know you're aware of it, once the energy of the signature sent out there, it's literally flowing. And the factors involved, especially if it's a love case, it might be now a third party, or the person you want back is now suddenly on drugs or sleeping around every night. So that's a factor which is going to influence
Yes.
the flow of the spell, which is one thing, right? And then sometimes the client gets extremely frantic and they're like, why isn't he calling? Why isn't he calling? What is he doing? I'm checking on him. I'm checking on Facebook. I'm checking on IG. And it's like, your energy is frantic. You are fucking up your spell. You're not receiving it. So I've learned when they get to that point, I actually ask them, would you even like a free consultation? If
Yeah.
time permits it, just so I can tell you, please, let's access your higher vibration and calm down, as you're never going to receive a spark.
Hmm.
So it's actually good for the client to know. Their part is very important. Yeah.
Absolutely. Sometimes it is more efficient to just take half an hour or an hour free to just calm the client down, or you recognize that they're operating from a state of um
Yeah.
this is the wrong state of mind. What is the word? They're operating from a place of scarcity rather than abundance, and you have to
Yeah.
tell them, look, you need to act as though this thing is already happening, because when you
For
keep
sure.
checking your phone and you keep calling the person, you're blocking it. You're not
Yeah.
allowing it to come full cycle.
That is so true. That and the fear factor, which comes up most of the time. And I teach them as well when because a lot of it's new to them. I say when you write your petition, when you speak the words, when you see the words, always speak in the present tense.
Yes.
Write in the present tense and never ask. And for your viewers watching, this is bonus information for them. Never ask. Always thank for what is
Mhm.
in the present tense, and you see it as a present manifestation. That is how you actually receive it, and that is how you create it on the other end as well.
Yeah, it's almost like you transfer yourself into the universe where that already exists. It's hard to
Mm.
explain, but it feels that way to me sometimes. Like you're creating a wormhole into the place. You're putting yourself into the state or the place, as I said, where
Yeah,
that already exists.
yeah, 100, yeah.
So last question. What are your plans for the near future of your practice and your studies?
Um, Plans. What I would like to do, like I bumped into a few locals here, like who's maybe come across my email name, which is very long, and it gives away what I do. Oh, what is? And we start chatting. It's happened quite a few times, and then we actually got chatting about it. And I'm like, I at first like I don't walk around and say, "Hey, what I do," you know. So they'll bring it up, and I'll start talking to them about energy, the universe, creation, magic, what you're capable of. I'm like, what? And then they'll tell a friend. So I bumped into a few folks like that, and then they try and chat to me and chat to me and chat to me. And I thought, you know what? Especially for where I am here in South Africa, I would love to in the near future start like really small, like 10, 20 people in a room where I do an hour or two of teaching on
Mhm.
truth, on spirituality, on occult, on magic, a little bit of everything. And then maybe 100 people take from there. And because most of my clients are in the States, I would probably want to come there in like 2, 3, 4 years' time, maybe hook up with a few clients who I know for years, and they can set me up with okay, where I could possibly do the same thing and just chat to open-minded people about who you really are, what you have access to.
Hmm. Well, if you ever come to the States and you find yourself in the Midwest, I'd be more than happy to meet up with you and have a discussion. Maybe we could do like a seminar type thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, I don't even know how to go about doing it. It's just my heart's desire to speak to open-minded people and tell them, yeah, you are creation, bro. You are creator, and this is how you do it.
Mhm.
And this is who entity is. And I love, and I think you do too. I love it when you see you breaking that barrier of anything that's been demonized, you know, the word occult, the word demons. I love breaking those barriers to show them they are not what you think.
Mhm. Yeah,
They're
there's
not
so
who you
much
think.
growth in breaking those taboos and those barriers.
Yeah, yeah. So teaching that truth is a very big part of my teaching as well. And I don't like to go into religious debates with people, but I do teach them that, look, if you're open-minded, hear me out, you know. That was designed to limit you, and I've made some hits on that. And I
Mhm.
don't mock any of the religions or have, you know, I have friends from quite a few different religions and with open mind. It's just if you're willing to, I'll chat to you and I'll say, okay, cool. This is why I say it's limiting. And then I'll give you something to think about. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, was there anything else that you wanted to cover or mention before?
If I can maybe just mention my email address and my YouTube channel name.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'll post that in the description as well.
Okay, cool. So I have to write it down even though it's mine. It's because they're also similar. So my email, like I said, it's how long? It's spiritual healing, spellwork101 at gmail.com. My YouTube is Steve Dark and spellwork101.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on here and talk to me. Maybe we'll have you on again in the future in a few months or a year or something to see what stayed the same and what's changed in your practice.
Yeah, sure. We can go deep. I mean, if there's anything I said that really resonates with you, like I said, everything we touched on to it is so brief, but everything we touched on to, we can go super deep. You know,
Mhm.
if you ever need to do a conversation on a specific topic, let's just go deep into it and not try and cover quickly 30, 40 little topics, you know? I'm open to
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's actually a plan that I have for the future is I take notes with everyone that I talk to and I
Uh,
cover a broad scope, but then the things that I find in common or the things that I want to know more about, I sort of have this plan in the back of my head that we will instead of being so shallow, we'll get a little bit more profound with the
yeah,
discussion.
yeah. And I think we should. We should keep on teaching. Yeah. Keep on
Awesome.
discussing it, you know?
I agree. I agree 100%. I won't take up any more of your time. I appreciate you coming on and talking to me. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
But brother, have a great weekend. I was about to say lekker. If we ever chat in the future and I use words you don't understand, it's just our local lingo.
Mhm.
So lekker is nice, like really, really nice. Have a really, really nice weekend, brother. Thank you for your time. And you know what? Truly thank you for helping to get this knowledge out there. I
Mhm.
just want everyone to at least have access to it. They don't
Same.
necessarily have to believe what we're saying because we're not a religious cult, but just be open to truth. And you're going to see things change for yourself for the better.
That's an excellent closing statement. All right. Well, yeah. Have a great weekend, and I'm sure we'll probably talk off camera at some point. Maybe have some more conversations.
Definitely, I'm open to it anytime.
Awesome. All right. Take care. Have a good one.
Cheers, my brother. Have a good one, eh?
Bye.